I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to Highlights.
Who's going to break Smith's world title?
He's done it, and look at these two go. He's going to do it, his first victory. The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.
Hello everybody and welcome to Melbourne, Australia for round 2 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship in 2024. 2 weeks on from our enthralling opener at Bahrain, where Jake Dennehan was able to take his second career win and of course the first scalp of the 2024 season. We've come down under for the first time in 5 years to take on the new look Melbourne Street Circuit for the very first time. My name is Ewan alongside Cam Rodger to embark on this voyage of discovery altogether. It's been half a decade, Cam, since we were here, and last time around I think it's fair to say this circuit was maybe a little bit easier to negotiate, but now we've seen the changes. It's faster, it's more sort of dynamic in that sense, and more difficult in terms of the corners that we've got here at Albert Park this time around.
Yeah, it used to be very stop-start, a load of sort of medium-length straight with chicanes in between, but now it is fast, it is flowing, it is high commitment, and as we saw in the Pro Academy race earlier, it's a bit of carnage as well. So hopefully the race is going to be quite entertaining from that side of things, and it's just a new challenge. And of course, we have the public vote coming up next, so quite a few different tracks coming our way compared to last season.
Yeah, exactly. Quite exhilarating, I think it's fair to say. This is the schedule. Public vote, as you say, and that is going to be open until the end of this race. So do check that out on the forum if you haven't voted already. Australia, the venue we're at here today. And another one we haven't visited for quite some time, actually, coming up for round 4 as well here at Singapore on the 14th of April. Means that we've got quite a few races and circuits we've not been to in recent years coming back. United States can be added to that list as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I say going back to COTA, we've been to Indianapolis for the US Grand Prix the last few times, and then of course finishing the season with Japan. Oh, actually, we've got to mention as well Turkey coming back after not being there since 2017. So it really is going to be a fun series, and I can't wait to see how the drivers can battle it out the next 9 races. Yeah.
This is the current championship standings after just one round of the season. Top 15 get points these days, and so it's a little bit less for finishing in the top 10. Jake Dennehan just beat Jan Granqvist there to the victory ahead of Jonas Brakstok as well, who got another podium. Manuel Biancaluna with a good debut for 2024 anyway, in 4th place. Not his overall debut, ahead of Jurnej Simoncic in 5th position. Some surprises, but I'm not sure how much we can read into just one round's results.
Oh, absolutely not. And it's just one of those things, isn't it? The first round, you see the drivers come out. Jake won the first race last season, but then Jan ended up winning the championship. So the first race isn't everything, but certainly it's at least an insight into who's going to be at the top over the next couple of months.
It absolutely is. They're currently in qualifying at the moment. Let's cross over to Park and see who's where as they begin and go through their 10-minute session. It's McGorgy who is currently leading the way. Of course, a driver we've seen in these type of cars for plenty of time, but McGorgy not having participated in FSR very often at all. He did take part in the final round last year, but other than that, has been largely away from the FSR World Championship. He's currently on pole ahead of Yannick Bock and Alex Siebel, who will be looking to recover from his Bahrain results, in which he finished way down in the field. He's still on 0 points after one round, after finishing 16th 2 weeks ago.
Unfortunately losing the front wing, and the front wing has been slightly strengthened since the previous race, because there was a few too many front wings flying off, but let's see how that is going to work out for this race. But let's actually get a bit of a lap round this new track here at Albert Park.
Yeah, on board with Owen McGorgy here to take a look at the new look Australian Grand Prix circuit. Down here in towards turn 1, the classic orange number braking markers. Misses the apex slightly at turn 1, but that's okay. He's run round through turn 2, absolutely flat out, and now towards 3. Curving braking zone, of course, and a slightly changed corner here too. Earlier apex, now slides his way out of that corner, taking all of the curves he possibly can through turn 4, and now it gets to the real high-speed section. There'll be one, let's abandon that because he has. There's one little stop there as you take the right-hander at turn 6, but after that, it's very, very high speed for the next few moments. This is on board with one of the new cars on the grid here this time around. We've gone up from the 20 cars that took part in Bahrain for a couple of new faces in the World Championship here this round.
Yes, Optiminal have joined us with Macheda and also Maciej Heiler as well, though backing out of that one. We're not doing good with choosing the drivers to look at today. But yeah, good to see an extra team come in. Of course, they're in Pro back in Bahrain, but they saw that there was space in WC, and especially Macheda showed some good form in Bahrain, and they asked if they could move up. And of course, when space is open, we might as well add some more drivers to the list. Points go to 15, so there's now 7 drivers who will miss out on that. Macheda's hoping to nick a couple here, and someone else who's looking very strong is Yannick Bock here for Evo, of course, moving over from TX3 back to his old stable where he won a couple of Super League titles a few years ago, and another strong lap there, 11 thousandths off Magorgi at the front.
Yeah, not much time at all in it at the top of the times. Here's Dennis Jordan in the slightly darker Ferrari this season, making his way through the final sector now, just under 2 tenths away from the current pole time from Owen Magorgi. Into the penultimate corner now, also changed down there at turn 13, and then pulling it wide to the left-hand side to open out the exit onto the straight. The wall really grabbing you as it just juts out slightly towards the cars, and now Dennis Jordan makes his way over the line. He will go 4th, so the top 2 rows all covered by a 1/10 of a second as Jan Grankvist is taking a few liberties with the grass. He will go back to pit lane as well. Encouraging qualifying session here because all of the drivers, well, most of them anyway, very close together, especially in those opening 2 rows, although we do have a couple of big names yet to have actually put a time in. Jake Dennehan starting one of his first laps right now with still only 2.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, when you have such a fast, high-speed track, of course, the margins in fast corners are so little that you get the drivers so close together. The only real braking zones around here is turn 3 and then turn 12 at the end of the back straight, and then the penultimate corner. Turn 1 is still 5th, 6th gear. You're not braking so much. Turn 6 as well, the fast flick. You're only really dabbling the brakes. Coming up here at turn 9 as well, only really a dab with the brakes. So there's only really 3 braking zones. Therefore, the drivers are just flat out for so much of this lap. There's really hard to make the time difference. But Bianca Lilla still very strong at 3.5 tenths off. But can he, sort of show the speed that he showed in Bahrain? Let's find out in the final couple of corners.
Dennehan couldn't quite get to his teammate there. He'll be 6th, and that might well be the end of his session unless he can get out there again quickly. Jerne Simicic is the final driver to actually set a time here. Michi Hoyer currently down in 21st. They'll be sharing the back row as things stand. What can Jerne Simicic do here over the line? For him, it is 7th. Not bad for Jerne Simicic, but still yet to really get going in this season, as sometimes he does. He never seems to win the opening round, really, other than, incidentally, the last time we were here for the opening round, which was 2019. He did win on that day. Michi Hoyer goes over the line, still only 16th for him. He is struggling. Now, 9th place 2 weeks ago, struggling to get into the top 10 in qualifying here.
And it's funny to see how the order can change depending on the race. We've got the 2 Ferrari cars there on the second row as it stands. Jordan Siebel both struggling a bit back at Bahrain, but they look like they've sped up. And of course, Magorgi there, he also wasn't quite as fast as Jake back in Bahrain, is looking good. Valeriano across the line, couple of personal bests. Can he jump himself up? No, he doesn't improve in the end. But certainly, I think we're looking like it's going to be a competitive grid today. Another car is looking good. It's obviously the Go team of Prosciutto, 2nd season in the World Championship, and up there in P14.
See if he can improve on that with this late lap time. He's one of few drivers to complete his session right here, even with time remaining on the clock. Over the line goes Prosciutto, and it will be just 14th, but doesn't improve his position here on the circuit. Now Alex Siebel makes his way through turns 9 and 10. Such high commitment, high speed corners. And now down towards the final few. The best overtaking opportunity on the circuit probably these days. Down here at turn 11, but that's not gone well for him. That'll be his session complete. Jan Grankvist to be next on the list to try and take Owen Magorgi's top spot.
Certainly will. Second place, best result ever 2 weeks ago. And can he continue this form on? A top 5 is certainly a great starting position, but can he get on the front 2 rows as he comes across the line for Super Venturi? Looks like it's still a solid lap, but not enough to improve.
Dennis Jordan not going any quicker himself either. He's the last driver really out there to be able to improve now. Certainly inside the top 10. Yuka Lalu is quite a long way down at the moment. 18th currently, although he is improving. He will go up the order to 15th place. Half a second off, but still down in 15th. Dennis Jordan here is probably going to be routed to 4th, even though his teammate Alex Siebel, I should say, is only 6 thousandths ahead. I don't think he's going to be able to reverse the fortunes of the 2 Ferrari drivers. Over the line he goes, and I think he's only completing the lap just for his own sake. There he goes, over 4th position, and so he'll stay there. Sander Callas, 11th at the moment. He got demoted a couple of positions, 4 positions in fact, post-race at Bahrain, and so his eventual finishing position was down in 14th, but he's another driver who could get a top 10 today.
Yeah, certainly a fast driver, former pole position winner in this series, but unfortunately not quite enough for that today. So let's see obviously how the results are shaping up, but I do think that it's looking very competitive with just 2 tenths pretty much covering the top 10.
Yeah. 2.5 tenths from first attempt from Owen McGorgy, who set a 17.1 to take pole position by 11 thousandths of a second ahead of Yannick Bock. It is Alex Siebel in 3rd place ahead of Dennis Jordan. Sander Callas with that late lap time getting up to 5th place. Jan Grankvist just second 2 weeks ago. He's 6th place ahead of the driver who beat him to that win, Jake Dennehan. Manuel Biancalillo and Joni Simičić join them inside the top 5, but they're outside of it here with Martin Mergli for Brabham eSports rounding out the first 10. In the bottom end of the order, we've got Jonas Braxot. Not used to seeing him down there. He's a good qualifier. The Optimal eSports drivers are 12th and 13th, with Sergio Fletcher leading Ruben Mercedes. It is Cosmo Prosciutto 14th ahead of Yuka Lalu, with George Zalagianis 16th. Kostas Van Vukas next, ahead of a disappointed Michi Hoy, you'd imagine, with 18th position. Matthias Ster for Go Team is 19th ahead of Giordano Valeriano for Team VM, and then Filip Puška, who's a whopping 19 positions behind his teammate for Evo, and Stavros Mercedes, who brings up the rear. The whole field covered by a second, and so that is qualifying ahead of 58 laps. Not going to be like what we see in real life Formula 1 racing, where there's boring one-stops. There's plenty of strategy options and plenty of pit stops on the cars for us today.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be a battle of the 2v3 stops. But the funny thing is here, even though, despite all of the straights around here, it's actually kind of difficult for the overtaking, purely because we have the battery usage as well. So because we have all the straights, you can't use the battery all the time, and therefore you're actually quite limited. So you got to be very careful with when you use that, and I think that's going to be a big factor, especially in that first stint. I think we are going to see a lot of people trying to stay in that position, but as soon as that pit stop window opens and the people on the 3 stops try and go in, they try and get the undercut, then all it's all going to break loose, and the strategy will certainly come into it.
It will. And surely it's going to be one of those races where track position could be quite important as well, because you get the feeling that when it's a difficult circuit here and there's high-speed corners and sort of not big braking zones particularly, and you get the feeling that it's going to be one of those that is very difficult to overtake on, and track position could be quite important, and we've just seen the first part of that, of course, in qualifying.
Yeah, I think when you see such a competitive field as well, the strategists are really going to be, sort of on their toes trying to work it out. It's not going to be a fun one from that point of view, but I do like, from what we see, that all of the all of the sort of doors are open, so you can, especially if it's a 3-stop, is that going to be 3 mediums and a soft, or is it actually going to be 2 mediums, 2 hards, like we saw Jake Dennehan? Despite doing a 3-stop last time, he still used 2 sets of hard tyres. So you can really sort of do anything with the tyres that we have. All 3 compounds are very, very close together, and it just means you have to decide exactly with where the track position is behind you for where you're going to be able to filter in back into the pack.
So bit of a delay at the moment. We'll get there in a few moments' time to the race, but we will we'll try and get that all resolved and get ourselves towards the race very, very shortly. While we're getting those issues sorted out, we will just go to a short break. Don't go anywhere. The Australian Grand Prix in the 2024 Formula Sim Racing World Championship is on.
I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to FSR.
Who's going to break Haystack's world title?
Oh, he's done it! And look at these two go! Ewan is going to do it! His first victory! The World Championship is done. What a race it's been!
Welcome back to the Australian Grand Prix, where we're setting up for the race. We've just had qualifying. We're getting ourselves ready for 58 laps though, and where the points are scored. Still myself, Ewan, O'Leary, Cam Rodger alongside me. We shouldn't be too far away now from actually getting this race underway, and it's a little bit of an odd rhythm breaker, I suppose, for the drivers, but they should be able to deal with this and get themselves ready for 58 laps after the qualifying session that we've just seen, and then a qualifying session that has really mixed up the order compared to the race results from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's a nice change actually to see a difference in the order. Some drivers obviously working out the car, getting a bit more of a feel for it. And with how close the lap times are, you only need to just nail your quali lap by half a tenth of a second. You're going up quite a few places. So it's always nice when we have a competitive field like that. And over 58 laps around a very tricky track that we've already been mentioning, I can definitely see a few issues for some drivers over the course of this race. I don't think anyone's going to have a clean 58 laps. So it's going to be a tough one. And it's going to be an interesting one to see who's going to come out on top, because at the end of the day, it might be sort of the most consistent rather than the actual fastest today.
We'll wait and see on who can take the top spot for the second round of the championship. 10 races this season, of course, and a public vote for the race in just 2 weeks' time. The only one that we've got this season, the only public vote, and you can still take part in it if you haven't already on the forums until the end of this race, where we'll be announcing the next round of the championship at the conclusion of the Australian Grand Prix. Looks like we are heading into warm-up now. It looks like everybody has gotten in here from what it looks like, and we can get ourselves underway with the same grids that we did previously. We don't have to do qualifying again, so no need to worry about that, but we do just have to get everybody into the session, and I believe that they are now into the proper race session. So everybody out there again, just making sure they're up to speed, making sure that they've got the right setup, they've got their right mindset going into this one in terms of which tyres they're going to start on, and then what's going to happen from there on in. But as you can see, this is the first time in a little while that cars have been out there on the track together after solo qualifying, of course, but now all 22 of them will be tearing down in towards turn one for the very first time pretty shortly.
Yeah, it's always a fun one when we, as you mentioned, we go into qualifying as a private session. Then you come back out and warm up, and all of a sudden you've got the cars around you again, and you have to work it out. And it's always nice. It's only 3 minutes long, so it's only really enough for sort of 2 laps. Because we always move bang on zero, pretty much. So it's not that long just to get used to the heavy feel, but it's enough just to get a feeling. And as the cars go onto the grid, you of course now gets the feeling of the drivers of who is going to be feeling it this race. It's a new track, as you say, Ewan. We haven't raced here in 5 years, but of course other series have been coming here as well. So the drivers should know it by now, but they need to work out what is the best way of winning it in an FSR situation.
Yeah, they certainly do. As you can see, there's your grid on the left-hand side, and some early tyre choices as well, although hard to trust them sometimes when it is so early, just for the moment. Let's hope that we can say with a bit more certainty by the time that they get to the actual outlap. But lots of mediums and hards running around at the moment, and from what you were saying earlier, Cam, I think it's fair to say that you weren't particularly expecting the softs to be used very much in the race.
No, they were used a fair amount as we go on to the formation lap. There is a fair amount in Bahrain, but they just with the high-speed corners around here, and there's a little bit lower downforce as well because of the longer straights, so the soft tyres just really struggled with that one.
Them, as you say, making their way around this circuit now for a formation lap. This is the starting grid for the Australian Grand Prix, with Owen McGorgy taking his first pole position in FSR World Championship competition ahead of Yannick Bock. It's an all-Scuderia Ferrari eSports team Rd.2 with Alex Ewan leading Dennis Jordan. Sander Callas is 5th in the number 5 ahead of Jan Grankvist, who was 2nd 2 weeks ago. Jake Dennehan, the current championship leader and reigning race winner, is in 7th position there with also Bianca Lula, Simoncic, Mergeli rounding out the top 10. It's the other Brabham eSports driver of Jonas Brax up next, the first of the new team, Optimal eSports are 12th and 13th. Then it's Go Team Racing and Cosmo Prosciutto. Yuka Lalu is 15th ahead of George Zalo Giannis in 16th. Kostas Van Vukas is the best place of the NetRex drivers in 17th. Mitchie Hoyer is around 10 places down his teammate in 18th. Matthias Ster and Giordano Valeriano round out row 10, with Filip Pushka and Stavros Mercedes making up the back row. And you wonder how easy or difficult it's going to be for those drivers who start on the back row or start indeed towards the back to make their way through on a circuit like this. Thinking of the likes of Mitchie Hoyer, who we know how strong he can be, has won many times in the World Championship before, but starting once again a long way down after a difficult qualifying.
I just wonder how it's going to go in this race, because as you see on the track map, we have 2 DRS zones, not down these 2 straights at the back end of the track, but the first 2 straights. And of course, the second one has a harder braking zone into turn 3. But really, the best overtaking opportunity is up into turn 9. You don't need DRS down there, and you definitely see some overtakes, but then it's really, really, really risky to overtake into the far chicane. So it's a game of cat and mouse around here, and I definitely think it's going to be the drivers who are a little bit smarter who will come out on top in this one. And maybe we're going to see, we've seen a lot of mediums in this first stint, aren't we? Maybe a few of those on the hards. They're going to go longer and try something that will be a bit racy at the end of the race.
Let's see as they make their way out onto the starting grid. Owen McGorgy going for the hard tyres, which is going to be a disadvantage certainly, especially early on in this race, maybe even getting off the line. Can Yannick Bock get to turn 1 first and maybe lead the Australian Grand Prix? Well, there's the view from the back of the grid as the final drivers get themselves lined up for 58 laps of racing. Going to be a quick one. Fast circuit, of course, these days, and not very many. Not a big lap time, so going to be a very quick race indeed. It's the Australian Grand Prix returning to the Formula SimRacing World Championship for the first time in 5 years. We are underway again. Owen McGorgy looking to cover off Yannick Bock on the way towards turn 1, and has done so. He will lead at the opening corner of the race ahead of Bock. Then it is Alex Siebel who's got into 3rd place. Dennis Jordan going side by side with Sander Callas for 4th, and he's lost out in the end. Jan Grankvist is going to try and overtake him as well on the way down towards turn 3. He's on the outside line, which will give him the inside for turn 4 all over again. There he goes. Dennis Jordan will have to hang it around there for the inside at turn 5. This is the battle for 5th place, and he's finally got there just ahead of Grankvist. Not a great start for him though, as he loses out to Sander Callas.
And this is going to be a big run down this new straight. Is there going to be any overtakes into the infamous turn 9 corner? And look at Bianca Miller not getting the run that he would have wanted. Jake Dennehan, he has done so in behind, almost pushing the Italian up towards turn 9. How much of your battery do you want to use at this point in the race? Going 2 by 2 in there. That's as well. Simoncic trying to dive up the inside of Jake Dennehan, but choosing to back out of that one.
He stays 9th, and he might even have trouble from Jonas Brax now on the way down towards turn 11 as a result. There's cars on the grass in the background. Very close racing going on down there for around 12th position. It's the new teammates who are now side by side. We've got Sergio Fletcher losing places here. The teammates have reversed, and it's Mitchie Hoyer who's in 14th place. That was not a good line for Sergio Fletcher, and Hoyer will go straight through. Good start from him. He's up 5 places.
Yeah, nice one there. Nice clean opening lap pretty much from what we saw as well. Although there's a couple of drivers actually off the back, Lalu and Prosciutto, they've obviously had an issue off camera. Maybe down towards turn 1, there was a few bits of grass and dust being put up into the air. But as for everyone else, that was a very nice start, to be honest. And I'm actually very interested to see that McGorgy's pulling away despite being on the hard tyres.
He is, and that is a surprise, really. Just trying to see what tyres everyone else was on. It was showing Bock on hard tyres earlier, but I believe that was in error, and he is on medium compound tyres, as are the next 5 actually. Siebel, Callas, Jordan, Grankvist, all on mediums, and you can see the sort of gap opening in front of Manuel Biancalilla. Maybe that is one of the reasons why there is a gap. opening up there to nearly a second and a half as Dennis Jordan has to go defensive on the way towards turn 9. Jan Grankvist trying to make his way through, can't quite do it through there though on this occasion, and he's once again defending. Grankvist aggressive early on, later on the brakes too, outside line of turn 11, this could be special, through turn 12 as well. It's not easy round here, but he can get the inside for the next turn, he might be okay. He's all over the gravel, he's sliding all over the place, he can't quite get 5th place on this second lap.
And this is just losing time, so Dennis is going to lose the slipstream of the cars ahead, which is the important bit around here. Of course, DRS will be active at the end of this lap. They're just starting lap 3. Of course, first zone isn't actually until the very end 3, so let's see how this one goes, because where the detection is, but also the gap opening up there is just going to be a bit of a bottleneck now for Dennis Jordan, who's lost that time to Callas, who really is having such a strong race so far. So the top 4 starting to pull away.
They are, and part of that is down to racing, and that's what I've noticed immediately here. I mean, we're only 2 laps into this race, to be fair, but the big difference between this circuit and what we saw at Bahrain is the amount of time that a battling pair will actually lose. Look at the gap between Callas and Jordan. That was only after, 3 corners of side-by-side between Jordan and Grankvist, and that's the kind of gap that can be created. So maybe that's going to sort of disincentivise everybody to race with one another here early on, because they know how much time is lost. Jan Grankvist isn't deterred by that though. He believes it's important to get past Dennis Jordan, and he will not leave him alone. Jordan will defend again now in towards turn 11, like watching a replay almost. Grankvist though is edged out wide. Was he pushed over there, or did he do it to himself? Well, I think I know what he will presume there, but he's down to 8th position as Bianca Liller and Denahan both take advantage.
I do think that was a bit of a silly move though for Grankvist, because he saw it didn't work on the previous lap and he tried the same thing again, but in a slightly worse position. He wasn't quite as far alongside, so I don't really know what he was hoping there. As DRS is active for the first time down the first and second straight, is 1 detection zone for both activation zones. So if you overtake someone to turn 1, then you have it again down into turn 3, but it's almost a helping hand, the one down the front straight to have a move. Is someone in the background will be having a look? It might be Ruben Macheda for Optiminal. They're just sliding a bit there, coming in towards the hairpin, not making it work. But certainly not too bad of a showing from these guys so far.
Not really, not so much. Don't know what happened to Lalo and Prosciutto, by the way, but that was through the mid-pack, or the bottom end of the midfield, I suppose you could say, maybe even at the back, but they're certainly at the back now. They're both having come into the pit lane. Lalu putting on some soft tyres to try and make the best use he can of that. He's not been able to particularly, or not going to be able to particularly recover, but we'll see later on. Now, what happened? This is Ruben Macheda down towards turn 11. He's back in the mid-pack, so here we go at the start again. Now, is this where it all goes wrong? It's big moves down the inside from absolutely everybody. Oh dear. And Lalu has front wing off immediately there as many people in fact, dive down his inside, and that's his race over pretty much from the start. Don't know whether Cosmo Prosciutto was one of those who was down the inside there and causing all of that trouble, but he also had to come down pit lane, so a bit of a shame into turn 1 there for those two.
Yeah, definitely. It's there was 3-4 wide for a moment there coming into turn 1, as we've had some further issues. Someone has stopped down the front straight. That's Philip Pushki. Has retired from this race. I wonder if that was a crash, or if that was just something else going on. Out of the final corner, he's going to go wide onto the grass, and he wheel disconnected. Yeah, the wheels disconnected. See the front wheels, they're locked to the left-hand side, and obviously the brake pedal would have been connected to that, and it's a bit of an unfortunate situation there for the German. Very
unfortunate indeed for him. So he has to return back to pit lane, I'm afraid, and that is the end of his day. The first retirement of the season, incidentally. We didn't get any at the Bahrain Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. We got everybody finishing within 82 seconds as well. Everybody on the lead lap, including Matthias Ster, who was the final driver in the field. I can't remember the last FSR race we all got to the end of, but it was fantastic to see, even despite lots of front wings missing on that day. As you say, they've been strengthened slightly, but that doesn't mean that it would be easy to presume, oh, well, damage is just off then, isn't it? Well, Luke Lalu would have something to say about that. He's certainly felt the effects of the fact that, your front wing can still fall off, and of course we don't want these cars to have no damage at all. That would be a bit odd.
Yeah, if you go back to the start of the academy race, you can see the damage was very realistic. To be honest, if you start crashing into the barriers, then wheels. Oh, that was very close there for Yannick Buck. Yeah, wheels will start falling off, and you've got to be very careful with that. Of course, yeah. It's a bit more sensitive because before what happened was the suspension used to bend and then you'd be driving and crabbing, which is not really A, realistic, and B, fun to drive anyway. So it's now basically, yeah, the wheels will just come off the car, and the front wings were of course made quite quite weak, but then of course we had some drivers losing out to side by side in the far chicane. We go Jake Denhan on the outside.
It's Jan Kvankvist who he's going with here, and look at Yannick Simičić. Oh, Denhan had to just pull to the right hand side there to defend. He's gone down the inside. He can't get through though, and Simičić is coming again now with 3 wide on the way towards turn 12. Simičić on a very tight line. He's just about given the space there to Denhan, who covers again into the penultimate corner. It slows down Simičić. Here comes Kvankvist back again, and he's back to 8th place. Fantastic racing between these three, and look at the queue behind. Jonas Praxox here now with his teammate Martin Mergley, both in the slipstream now, very much looking to get involved and try and overtake the 4-time champion.
That was lovely racing between the three of them. Simičić thought he was going to get 2 places, and in the end he got none. But Kvankvist is dropping off. He was battling with Dennis Jordan, and now he's way back here, 3-4 seconds behind. So clearly just not being able to hold on after he sort of had that bit of the off track, and then has got involved with these guys. So it's certainly showing you how competitive this field is. Look at this train of cars that is now behind Jake Denhan, who's sort of leading this train.
Wow, what a fantastic battle there between Jake Denhan and Jan Kvankvist, excuse me. There's too many J's in this championship. Look at this, from 7th place to 10th. Ridiculous. Anyway, this is where the battling is though. Mercedes looking for a way through. So Sergio Fletcher, the new team, making some moves into turn 9. That's a big dive down the inside of Martin Mergley. It's not going to come off very well. And Michi Hoyer is going to be coming through here maybe into turn 11. Here we go, down the inside for Mercedes again. Into 11th place maybe. Can Hoyer take advantage here? Maybe. He go through the middle as Mergley goes off to the left-hand side. It'll be Mercedes on the right, and he'll have the inside for the penultimate corner. Michi Hoyer's making moves early on in the Australian Grand Prix. That was slightly odd. Oh, and the 2 teammates have collided. Off the road goes Mercedes as he was pushed by Michi Hoyer. He spins in front of the track and is collected by his teammate Sergio Fletcher.
That's such a shame for the new team. They were doing such a strong opening stint of this race, and then Michi Hoyer just squeezing Mercedes onto the grass there, and unfortunately he wasn't able to recover the grip as we're going always 3 wide down in towards turn 3 as well. As these guys going for every single position. Remember, top 15 gets points, and not only that, but they just want these positions. As you see, Van Vukas go through, more contact is made. Valeriano and also Mazidis almost losing the car.
Oh, here comes Mazidis on the inside of Valeriano, not quite. Can't quite find his way down the inside here, and he's going to find it tricky from here on in with the lefts and the rights, but it's very much a straight almost through here. Bit of energy used by Valeriano to hang on here, even despite the slipstream of the NetRex driver here. Valeriano very much being sandwiched by the 2 teammates. Now there's contact there and the front wing's gone. Stavros Mercedes couldn't quite react on the way towards turn 9, and his front wing is cartwheeling across the road.
This is it's almost too much to look at on the replay. Oh, this is unfortunately a little bit too late for that one. But this is, yeah, that is already what's happened. You can just see Mercedes there, unfortunately, just going across the road. Let's see this from his onboard point of view. Michi Hoyer just, sort of going off to the right side of the track. Mercedes going onto the grass, and unfortunately it was his teammate that he collected, and it was the wheel being lost for Fletcher that really was his downfall. Yeah,
so he'll be out of the Australian Grand Prix. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think Michi Hoyer is the only one to blame there. Mercedes was giving him just enough room through the penultimate corner. I mean, it wasn't loads of room, admittedly, but it was enough room. But Hoyer didn't return the favour.
No, he certainly did, and he was just going to the right-hand side of the track and trying to make it as difficult as possible. The 2 German drivers, but unfortunately for Mercedes and for Optimal, that is not the debut that they would have wanted, but they have shown strong speed, and they will definitely be back in the points later on this season.
You'd hope so. Kostas Van Vukas is out now as well. That was on the run. Was that at turn 9 or before? It was certainly at that, maybe a bit previous to that actually. Yeah, well, certainly previous to that, actually. I spoke too soon there. I think it was in the first sector where he came unstuck, and so already we've got 3 retirements. We're only 9 laps in. We don't continue at that same rate, otherwise we'll have no one left. Here's another look at what happened to Costas Van Vukas. It's through turn 1. There's a thing on behind, and slightly distracted by that, he goes off for a spin and he loses the wheel too.
Yeah, damage model certainly being put into use this season. Drivers going into the walls, and drivers unfortunately losing parts of their car, and I'm sure they'll learn from that. But it is, as I keep saying, this is a very tricky track. The changes have really made this a proper challenge for the drivers.
Yeah, do you think the damage model is slightly more sensitive in previous years, as some people have been saying that? I mean, I personally don't remember the last time I saw 2 wheels pop off in 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, I mean, we did this on purpose. We had some fun crash tests trying to work out the strength of each of the components, and of course it's impossible to make it perfect, but I think this is a little bit better. You are really punished, and you don't have to drive around with the car crabbing all down the straight for half the race.
Yeah, and let's not forget that other than Singapore, which is coming up in 4 weeks' time, this is probably the tightest circuit on the calendar. It's one of those half-street, half-purpose-built racetracks where most of it is on public roads, but there is a bit of purpose-builtness into it as well around here. So that's worth bearing in mind. But other than that, we'll be visiting Singapore, and then that'll be it. I mean, it won't be as noticeable around the other circuits on the calendar.
Oh, definitely not. This is sliding the rear end there nicely. This is definitely one of the more narrow circuits. Maybe not this front straight, but especially at this apex of turn 1, it really is one line, and a lot of the other track as well is just fast. You've got the grass in the wrong places at the wrong time. It's certainly that more old school circuit that we are going to see. Not too many times throughout the season, so I like it. I like the fact that we changed calendar a bit this season, adding some extra challenges to the drivers, and it's just that they've got to get up to speed with, especially this one as well. This wall on the left-hand side has been really closed in compared to the last time we came here, and that also might look easy, but you're trying to keep it just about flat out, and it's always just the ever tiniest bit of a lift when the tyres start wearing.
Feels like the walls are closer everywhere. As we got side by side for leading through. Yannick Bock goes through into turn 9. Owen McGorgy has led the opening 10 laps of this one, but despite being on the medium tyres, we think the graphics can't seem to make their mind up quite. But Yannick Bock, whatever he's doing here, is making the tyres he's on work, and for whatever reason, those medium tyres are not going away. Now we're into double figures in this race in terms of the lap count. The mediums are still better than the hard compound tyres.
Yeah, this is the opposite of what should be happening. McGorgy pulled away at the beginning when he was on the slower tyres, and now we're later in the stint, and Bock has overtaken him with the softer tyres, the complete opposite of what should be happening. But maybe it's also a bit of the driving style. Maybe Bock was slower in those first 5 laps because he was just saving the tyres a little bit to now start pushing. And this is the best performance we've seen from him in the World Championship so far, showing why he's a Super League champion, multiple champion in fact, and of course McGorgy as well, Super League Lights champion last year as well, so both very proficient in these open wheel cars, and fighting at the front of now the FSR World Championship is great to see.
Yeah, fantastic drive. I've got to say, I didn't expect this from Yannick Bock here today. He had a quiet run to a top 10 1 week ago when we took part in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Of course, it's only his 2nd full season in the Formula SimRacing World Championship, actually 2nd full season in any of the 3 divisions. He took part in an Indy Pro Championship before, but that's very different to what we have here this season, or what we have in these sort of Formula 1 style races. Best result previously was a podium at the British Grand Prix 1 year ago, but he's on a bit of a run of top 10s now. That's the 3rd in a row that he scored 2 weeks ago. And now maybe looking for his first win. Here's Yannick Simicic down the inside of Jan Grakvist, and the 4-time champion is up to 8th place. He's having a quiet season so far. It's only round 2, but he's not pulling up any trees just yet.
Yeah, but look how close everyone is. So if you don't have that last 10th of a second, maybe be that practice time, motivation, etc. Because of course he's a 4-time champion now. He's got a lot less to prove as such. He's just coming out here trying to do the races, and when it's so close, yeah, I mean, we've seen it a few times, as you say. He might start the season a little bit slower than others, so maybe we'll just get into it over the course of the season. But I don't think it's too much to worry about, especially when we have completely different drivers up the top compared to what we saw back in Bahrain as well. So the points are being shared about.
Ewan Simicic now up to the same position he finished the last time we visited the Australian Grand Prix when it wasn't the opening round. That was 7 years ago now, in 2017, when it was round 5 of what these days we'd call as a mammoth 16 race season, which is a good 1.5 again times what we have here these days. Here is Dennis Jordan looking for his way past Sander Callas, who overtook him on the opening lap. Makes you wonder what Dennis Jordan could have done had his opening lap been a bit better. Sander Callas breaks very late to protect his position into turn 11. He's not thought about the next corner though. He'll be on the outside for turn 12. That gives him the inside for the penultimate corner though, and Dennis Jordan realises that by braking early again, going for another undercut. Oh, he just gets squeezed out though as he tried to do it all over again through the final corner. We look back now from the ground effect sim racing driver. Dennis Jordan closes on him. You don't often see this into turn 1, but Jordan's going for it anyway. Does he commit on the outside? No! And Sander Callas wasn't going to let him anyway. He's dived into turn 1 and took the place. Here's Manuel Biancalula looking for the place too. Both with the DRS open now, into turn 3. Dennis Jordan a lot braver on the brakes this time, but misses the corner almost entirely. And here's Manuel Biancalilla on the outside, looking at the outside. That's very close. Now they've got to work it through turn 5. Oh, it's so close. And Dennis Jordan grazes the wall. He's undamaged, but he's down to 6th place.
Yeah, I just wonder if going in turn 1 was not the right thing to do, because now who's this on the back? Jake Dennehan is getting close for the Ferrari driver, so that was maybe not the best situation to go for the overtake. And now Jake Dennehan round the outside in towards turn 9. Can he make it stick on the hard compound tyres? He's going to try, and he's going to make it work up the inside there, and Jordan has had to let that one go.
Here comes Simicic as well. He's looking to the outside with 3 wide into turn 11 now. He doesn't quite know there's 3 wide. Dennis Jordan there very nearly got squeezed in the middle by Jake Dennehan. Here goes Ewan Simicic down the inside again. And he's through into 7th place. As soon as Dennis Jordan tries to make a step forward and make an overtake, he seems to get freight trained and overtaken by numerous cars. Who's that? Jan Grankvist, goodness me, is into the pit lane now as well from 9th position. That's relatively early after just 14 laps.
Yeah, that's got to be a 3-stop coming in. Then also another driver's Michi Hoyer coming in. So we are seeing potentially a 2 versus 3 stop again today, but you have to go quite long on these, especially the medium compound tyres in this first stint, if you want to make it work, because you've got to get to, let's say, lap 18 and then go 20-20 on the hard. Something like that is on the offer if you want to do a 2-stop, or you've got to box early like Grankvist, get the undercut and try and make it work, especially if all these drivers are fighting like they have been. Obviously, they're going to be just losing time.
They are. Here is that battle again through the, what I'm going to call the back straight, even if it isn't really any longer. On board with Dennis Jordan. What's he going to be feeling right now? Some ruined medium tyres on his car, positions lost, not a good start, and it's all sort of snowballed from there. He's now behind Dennehan and Simicic, and of course he finished behind them both at Bahrain as well. Now down into turn 11 they go, and it's been a good season so far for Jake Dennehan. Now he's moving up the order a little bit, and just makes you wonder where he might be able to finish here today with his teammate right up there in the battle for the lead. Dennehan is slowly and steadily improving his position too.
Someone else coming in to pit road, that's Sander Callas from 4th place that he was in, so he's also going for the early stop. We did see, of course, Biancalilla try the 2-stop last time out, and it actually worked quite well. So I do think a few drivers will be not worried too much about these guys going in, because they have to make up, of course, a whole pit stop, which is about 18 seconds around here. Of course, if you divide that over the course of the race, about almost 0.3 of a second a lap, every single lap on average. You do have to then take into account the fact that the undercut will be worth, just 2 seconds right there, just for 1 lap.
Yeah, there is just across the quarter mark now of this race, by the way. 15 laps complete of the Australian Grand Prix. It's gone by very quickly. It's been exhilarating stuff so far. On board with Owen McGorgy here, who's looking for his way past Yannick Bock now into turn 11, although not seriously, of course. He's just sitting here and waiting for the moment that Bock comes in, and then he might well unleash some of the speed that he's been holding back, because those hard tyres still haven't really shown themselves compared to the mediums, which do seem to be fading across the board. Actually, we've seen quite a few pit stops now, but we've still got a number of medium tyre runners still out there. Wonder if Owen McGorry is going to be incentivised to go through on Bock here, or if he's just going to sit behind and wait for the moment when Yannick Bock comes in.
Alex Siebel into the pit lane for Ferrari. He comes in. What tyres is he going to go on to? Looks like another set of the mediums for him. So very interesting. The strategies that are coming out as well. I do wonder just who is going to flip-flop each side. There's Valeriano just coming out in front of Alex Siebel. He needs to get up to speed because he's got Sander Callas coming his way. So the undercut hasn't worked for the ground effect driver, but maybe down in towards turn 3 now, a little bit too far back.
Yep, too far back into turn 3. So that's an important moment for Siebel to be ahead of Callas and ahead of Jan Krankvist as well. They've both already stopped, of course, but behind, of course, Giordano Valeriano. That's going to hold them up a little bit. Valeriano not really in the same conversation because he is a long way back, but he is in front of them on the road right now, which is not ideal for them. These are the leaders again. 17 laps complete now for Yannick Bock, who might well be into the pit lane very shortly. And now is the moment. He stays to the right, and McGorgy comes in too. The mediums and hard tyres, very similar it seems.
So, this is interesting how similar the medium and hards are, but we did see this last time out as well in Bahrain, but that's because it was under a 3 stop. Does he go to the hards again? Yes, he does. What does Yannick Bock go to? He goes to the hards as well, so it's hard v hard. Who's going to get the run on pit exit? Looks like it's going to be Yannick Bock, who just keeps that position, but Magorgi almost pushing him down towards turn number 1. They've got a Go Team car coming out just behind them, so they are going to continue their battle in what is currently P3 with loads of other drivers coming down pit road, but now we are even Stevens in this middle stint as the tyres are the same.
They are, and wonder how that's going to affect the leading battle, especially with the likes of Sander Callas on mediums and the rest of them on hards again. They're all similar in that respect. Manuel Biancalula and Jone Simoncic still out there at the moment. Leading the way is Biancalula now for Team VM, and he's now run 18 laps here. I think what this is suggesting to us though is that it might be a 3-stop race here today. No one has gotten to the 20 lap mark yet, and in fact only 2 of the front runners have made it past 17 laps.
Yeah, I wouldn't completely rule it out, but they are going to have to go quite just a few laps longer than I was expecting through this middle stint if they are going to make it work. But let's see a look at Callas, absolutely rocketed off the far chicane there at turn 10, but not enough to get past Valeriano, who is now holding these drivers up. Siebel's got past, and look how much he's gone up the road.
Exactly. That's why Sander Callas absolutely has to do the same here on Giordano Valeriano, and it could disadvantage them with Jone Simoncic coming out the pit lane here. In finally goes Valeriano, but that may well be the damage done for Sander Callas because Jan Krankvist is right there, although his exit off the final corner wasn't quite good enough. Where's Simoncic? Where's Simoncic? There he is, out of the pit lane. He's just behind Dennis Jordan, and in fact here comes Jordan. In fact it was Jake Denahan who just got through. Here's Jordan now coming out through the exit of turn 2. Can't get through though, he'll have to stay behind with Janusz Prakchuk right there. Michi Hoyer as well. Hoyer's almost caught his teammate here despite starting around 10 positions behind.
Yeah, he's having a quiet race in a good way. He's on the back of what is effectively this top 10, top 11 battle, and he has been there pretty much since halfway through that first stint. So I think Hoyer's looking good because look at the gap that's opened up behind to Mergely. They've really dropped behind this second pack. So they're looking good inside this top 10. And who's also looking good is Magorgi. He's coming back for that position that he had just about 10 laps ago.
Here's Magorgi. So 10 seconds the gap. Manuel Biancalula still leads, and does he go past the pit lane one more time? I think he has here. Oh no, he's gone to the pit lane. So 19 laps complete now. And finally, the field cleansed pretty much by everybody having come in. Zalagianis out of the race, by the way. So one less driver to worry about in terms of getting points. That leaves just 3 drivers out of the points who are still running out on the circuit. These 2, of course, not one of them in the first and second position. Already a third of the way through the Australian Grand Prix. Been a very interesting one so far, but is it just a 2-horse race? Is it between Bock and Magorgi, or will these guys catch up? Well, out of the pit lane, Jone Simoncic has started into 6th place ahead of Dennis Jordan. Jan Krankvist is there and he's under pressure, also trying to make moves while under that pressure. It's still a long line, one that you'd more like to see at the start of a race, and they've just stayed together so far.
Yeah, that was actually Gragfist losing, was that maybe 3 positions down in towards turn 1. He had an off track, so he must have gone off at turn 1 there, and unfortunately has lost his way down this battle. It's a bit of an interesting one. There must have been some DRS or something going on. Let's have a look. He's got the, there it is. There's contact with VEM on the inside there. And that's Biancalilla coming out the pit lane. And unfortunately, loses 2 places there. And then another one with the race clutch going past 2.
Wow. Wasn't expecting to see that at all. For Manuel Biancalilla. Does he dive in here particularly, or does he just get cut up? Oh, that's a difficult one to call. Very difficult indeed, but the fact is Biancalilla's outside the top 10, and he was probably in that conversation for those podium places. It's all one long line from there backwards, so he'll be very disappointed with that to start his stint in such a disappointing way, but it's 11th position. All is not lost, and I'm not really sure who you can blame for that one, if anybody, other than just the fact that the pit exit does spit you straight onto the racing line here.
And the biggest thing for me with Biancalilla, he's on the hard tyres again, so he's going to be going long, but he's already flat spotted those tyres. So he's going to have those vibrations, and they're just going to get worse and worse over the course of the stint. So if he wants to go long enough to make it to one set of mediums to the end, which I'm sure is his plan, that is going to be a long, hard stint. And the fact that he's lost the slipstream off the back of his train, I think he might struggle to get a top 10.
Well, could be difficult. Into turns 9 and 10 go this large group. We're so lively so early on in this race, no longer really, so that the field just settles down. Leading 2 still comfortably ahead of them. Alex Siebel's gotten away from them as well. Sander Callis is at the front of this train really, despite being on those medium tyres. I've got to say they are behaving slightly oddly as well. The mediums and hards are very, very similar on speed so far today. So look at what happened to George Zalagianis as he became our 4th retirement. Goodness gracious me, that is a huge accident, and there's only 1 or 2 words that can explain that. Technical issue. There you have it.
Oh, wheel
Goodness
disconnected
me.
as well.
Yeah.
Like Filippushki, always when it goes hard left in rFactor 2, that's like the base of the start of the axis. So if it loses the steering, it doesn't know where it is, so it goes to default, which is full left, and unfortunately he is out of this race.
And such a big crash as well. That car got a little bit of airtime on the way towards the gravel. That was a bad crash for Zalagianis, who is now out. Slightly odd to see the amount of wheel failures that we've seen so far today, but there you go. That sometimes happens. We've seen some pretty famous ones in the history of FSR, it's fair to say, and it's just one of those things that SimRacing has to deal with, like an engine blowing in real life or whatever you want to say. These things sometimes happen.
Yeah, Peter Berlak, 2020 in Suzuka, penultimate race of the season. I mean, he was an outside chance anyway of winning the championship, but that is what made Yanni Simicic champion on that day. And also a few months later in Indy Pro, I think it was at Sebring, Peter also had another one. And then I think it was GT Pro up in VIR through the S's, he also had one. He was having some issues with that wheelbase at the time. So he's definitely been seen before and has changed the course of championships. But fortunately for us as such, no disrespect, obviously Zalagianis and Pushki, but they're not fighting for this championship. They are just trying to get into the points and do their race, but unfortunately they are out.
I thought Berlak was leading that race at the time, actually. I know, as you say, he did have an outside chance of winning the overall championship in the end anyway, but I think he was leading or up there in that race at the time, the penultimate round of the 2020 season, which doesn't feel that long ago, but realistically 3.5 years since Yanni Simicic took his 2nd title in this championship. Manuel Biancalilla's just got through on Michi Hoyer. All is not lost then for the Team VM driver, clearly, because he's still driving well and he's making up positions. He's very quick, clearly, but he's just lost a lot of ground. Here he is down the inside of Jonas Braxo and through now into 9th position. So Biancalilla's got the speed, just a few seconds further back than he otherwise would be.
Yeah, I think Braxo just didn't use any of the hybrid system there. It was a sitting duck for Biancalilla, who clearly has some speed in this championship, which is really good to see, because he only really did a half season back in 2018 now. And of course he's done various other things in the world of eSports since then. And we know that he's fast. It's awesome to have him here in this championship. and of course he's put some work into the car and into other things. Over the course of the years that he's been involved in the championship. So it's great to see that he's finally getting some good results from this. And even a top 10 today after that spin, I think he should be happy. But let's see if he can catch up to Grankvist actually, because it's about 2.5 seconds. He might just be able to do it.
I think he will be able to. I think he'll be able to get back into that group. To be honest, I'm more surprised that Jonas Braksuk and Michi Hoyer have found themselves so detached from the rest of them. They were right there earlier, but for whatever reason, they can't stay with the speed here of Sander Callis, who was leading the group. It's Jake Dennehan now, who's up into 4th position. Maybe he's got something to say for the end of this race. Joni Simicic's looking to follow through as well. Outside line at turn 9. He's going to rip right past Sander Callis and get into the top 5. Great driving so far from Joni Simicic to get up there. Here's Dennis Jordan now as well, looking for a position. He won't be able to get there on this occasion, but Callis brakes very late. Just does it in time and will hang on to 6th position at least, but now he's getting ripped apart in this stint.
Yeah, it's funny how that goes, and I do wonder if it's just a bit of battery management for somebody like Callis sliding the rears there. He's got to be careful, because if you slightly slide these rear tyres and you overheat them, it's very difficult to get them back in the window, because you just have to keep pushing. Is that type of car where you don't really underdrive it particularly very much so. So once you start sliding a little bit, they get hot, and then you keep on pushing, they get more and more hot, and then it just snowballs out of control. So he's got to be careful with that, especially as Dennis is on the hard tyres. He'll have good consistency over the course of the next 5-10 laps.
He will. I just don't think Callis has been able to keep these medium tyres in the window, really, has he? Compared to everybody else. That's the only difference between him and the rest of the top 9. Yes, Braksuk's also struggled as well. Not sure what it is about this second stint in medium tyres, because Yannick Bock was able to make them work in the first stint, whereas they're not able to in the mid part of the race. Still waiting for answers really as to whether this is going to be a 2-stop or 3-stop race, but we might get some pit stops in the next 5 laps or so, which would give us our answers.
Yeah, by lap 30, then it makes sense, because let's just call it a 60-lap race divided by 4 for 3-stop race, then it's about 15 laps a stint. So by lap 30, we should be seeing the second round of pit stops. But of course, if we get towards lap maybe 45-ish, 40-45, then of course we're going to be looking at a 2-stop race if they can stretch it out that long. Well, yeah, probably at 40 actually. They'll be looking at that sort of distance, so it just depends. And the thing is, these tyres, they do stay fairly well. It's just that temperature that I was talking about. You can't slide. It's really about the rear tyres. You just can't slide the rears, otherwise they start falling away from you.
Yeah. And speaking of slides, Dennis Jordan just had one of those through turn 2. Jan Grankvist has caught up as a result. Manuel Biancalula not too far away from catching up also. Jens Braksuk and Michi Hoyer just detached from that. As far as who gets the final points goes, Jukka-Pekka Laulu is now in 15th position. Good recovery actually after losing his front wing at the first corner, and he's put himself into that conversation for maybe a few points.
Exactly, and this is why, especially when we have it, 15 points out of 22, there's 4 DNFs. So all you have to do is beat 3 other cars and you get a point. And of course, points being prizes in the FSR World Championship. So that is a good reason just to keep going and getting to at least the classification, which is you've got to complete 90%. So what's that going to be about? Probably like 53 that you need to complete at this track. So just keep going, and then you'll get yourself just a little bit, a little bit of prize. So not too bad for Lalu, who I think he'll be disappointed with losing that front wing, because he is such a fast driver. We're just not quite going to be able to see his pace today.
No, sadly not. And of course, 2 weeks ago, only got a few points for his efforts that day. Also down in 13th position that time around at the Bahrain Grand Prix. So his teammate doing a little bit better. Jan Grankvist currently running in 8th, but was so close to his first victory just 2 weeks ago. He was chasing down Jake Dennehan. There were stages where you thought maybe he will catch up, but those tyres that he was on at the end were just getting burnt through, of course, and the rate of catching always goes down towards the end of a race as the tyres just sort of equalise a little bit and just normalise. And so Grankvist couldn't quite get there, couldn't quite overtake Jake Dennehan. It was a nail-biter right to the end, but there was no No win for Grankvist on that occasion. Think he'll do well to win from here as well, but he's certainly flying the flag for Super Venturi. And a good start to the season. Dennis Jordan lost his front wing. How on earth has he managed that? He tried to get through on Sander Callas towards turn 9, and Ferrari eSports' dreadful start to the season continues.
That was a very weird one. Let's try and have a look at if we can try and work it out. But yeah, I mean, that was a pretty, we'll get a look at it again, that was a pretty decent hit on the rear left wheel. Just goes left, I mean, there wasn't really a full car's width there, and with the overspeed he had, it was enough to lose that front wing.
Dennis Jordan, a miscalculation with the highest of consequences. I'm afraid his strategy has been turned on its head. Down onto pit lane, and Dennis Jordan is not having a good time. Outside the top 5 in the opening round at Bahrain. He's going to finish way down the order. Looks like what Alex Siebel did at Bahrain as well. Only 10 points to their name from the as a team from the opening round of the season. They'll do well to get that amount here today as well. Mitchie Hoyer gets down the inside. Meanwhile, of Jonas Braxuk, that is for Brabham, and now he's up to 9th place.
Yeah, Mitchie making a move into turn 1. Probably the first and only one that we're going to see of the race, despite it being the longest DRS zone. Of course, it's more of a setup for the second one as such, with the way it works around this track. Because if we did DRS here up in towards turn 9, the overtakes would be absolutely ludicrous. We're already seeing enough opportunities just due to the length of the straight. So very interesting one how this race is working out. For a few drivers, they're really struggling, and I think that's just a sign of how tough this track is, as we're coming on very quickly to half distance in this race already, and we've seen a few drivers drop out and sort of lose contention.
We have. This is going to be such a different race compared to in 4 weeks' time when we're at the Singapore Grand Prix, where we're going to be going towards 2 hours of a race. Although I guess maybe it's a bit of a quicker circuit these days than it used to be. But even so, this race is going to be barely an hour and 20. I don't even think it will be quite. The winning time round here in 2019, by the way, was at 1 hour, 22 minutes, 51 seconds. Not sure that we can really read anything into that, because don't forget the fastest lap times back then were in the 1:23s. This track has changed almost beyond recognition since those days 5 years ago.
But it's funny that if you say fastest lap that time was at 1:23, the fastest lap here is only into the 21s. So from that point of view...
Yeah, but the average...
Yeah, from that point of view, it hasn't actually changed too much. But of course, the car was a lot different back then as well. I'm pretty sure it was a bit faster back then, just in general, with the regulations that we had. So yes, it is an interesting one with how it's changed this track, and it is a completely different track as well. It is just the way it races, the way you have to set up the car. It is completely different, and I don't know. We'll see how long it lasts. Maybe they change it once more in the future.
Well, exactly. It depends how they see what the changes and what they've done. Believe it or not, they've been around for 3 years now. This change circuit, which still feels very new to me, but it's been around for a few years. So they're clearly going with it for the moment, and why not? Here is Owen McGorgy on board with him as we've gone over the halfway mark officially now. So around 150 kilometres gone, just around the same distance to go here this afternoon. Flying through turn 6, which never ceases to amaze, and now in towards the back straight, which we're still going to call it, and removing that chicane, of course, that used to be in place. Didn't really provide anything to the circuit, to be honest. Just fly straight through it and continue on towards the even faster, it feels like these days, turns 9 and 10, and then a bigger stop down at turn 11 just to increase the overtaking opportunities, which I think it probably has done. This is where we're more likely to see an actual overtake. Alex Siebel defending from Jake Dennehan and Jernej Simoncic. Finally, Siebel not running completely in no man's land in this race for the first time in a while.
How have we ended up with 3 different teams, all with red as well? Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
So I'm sure we get into the shadows, going to be a little bit tricky, but it's great to have both Ferrari and, of course, Race Clutch in this championship, and they're doing such a good job over the course of the last couple of seasons. Getting close once more is Jake Dennehan up into 4th place, as in the background I noticed we've seen some overtakes. Oh, that's because we're seeing the next round of pit stops already at the halfway mark, so this is 3-stop strategies for these drivers as the Brabham pair come in behind Santa Callis.
Yeah, they're pitting opposite ends of the lane, thankfully, but 3 stops for them, you would imagine, be quite a remarkable thing to see. A 30-lap stint here at the end of this race, so another trip down pit lane for those drivers. Out through the back straight again for these 3 in that battle for 3rd place. Jake Dennehan getting very close now to Alex Siebel, who might have to defend into turn 9 here. No, Dennehan gets close but doesn't go through. Now what about at turn 11? Is his run through that chicane good enough? I would argue not, and so he stays behind. But if there are going to be games and 3-stop strategies, then they'll be in very soon, and if that is the case, then there won't be any pit stops anytime. There won't be any on-track overtakes anytime soon either. They'll do it in the pit lane, you would imagine, and they stay out again. So another trip round on this occasion, and no overtakes just for the moment. We'll see whether Dennehan can do it into turn 3 maybe.
Yeah, my gut feeling is that these top 5 all out are still going to be doing the 2-stop strategy, judging by how much past lap 15 they went. But this is now going to be the next run to the left-hand side. Is it going to be? Yes, it is. For Jake Dennehan around the outside, it's going to have to be, but Siebel puts his car in the perfect position. Dennehan trying to get some sort of switchback. And of course, turn 4 comes at you very fast indeed, but he's definitely being racy at this moment in time. He wants this position.
Does. Now through the middle sector they go. Oh, a little bit wide. Dennehan couldn't quite get that turned in there. He seemed to have a little bit of understeer actually, and Journey Simic will be very close now. Dennehan will have to use a little bit of energy here to just defend. I think Simic is trying to close in. Maybe Siebel will get caught as a result. Double slipstream here for the 4-time champion. Oh, that was close. He tried to get down to the outside there, but he was always going to be squeezed out of room, and just decided that the brakes were a more appetising option at that stage. Decides not to force the issue on the outside. Simic just played a patient game, and it looked like it may well work. He's very much in this conversation for a podium.
Oh, definitely. He's got that P3 in his sights, and he's had a quite enough race that I'm sure he's pretty chill. He's not too tense coming into this. You can see his task ahead of him, and he's got to work out how over the next 25 laps that he's going to be getting ahead of those 2 drivers, because they've pulled away from the little gap of cars, group cars I should say, in behind over the course of the strategy and the issues for the likes of Dennis Jordan. So this is working out rather nicely, and a strong performance from Siebel, who with that front wing loss back at Bahrain, we never quite saw the pace that he had, but of course he's finished 2nd in the championship twice, and he knows how to get it done.
Yep. So what a fantastic battle between these 3 greats of the series. Jake Dennehan, now a 2-time race winner, of course. Alex Siebel, so close to a title a couple of years ago. Simic doesn't know that feeling particularly well, but he does know about winning titles at this level. Here is Dennis Jordan. Well, how miserable must he be feeling here? I mean, he is, to be fair, in amongst the Brabham guys, and maybe if they're making 3 stops too, he's not entirely out of this, but this is not where he was expecting to be today.
Yeah, it's going to be a long road for Dennis, unfortunately, after that front wing loss. But he definitely has the speed to be able to come up with something to get back into some decent points, I'm sure. Because even P10 is only 7 seconds up the road. So I'm sure you can have a look at that and try something. So all is not lost. But the issue is he's got some fast drivers around him with the Brabham cars who, on their day, they can definitely be well up inside that top 10.
Yeah, it goes back to the start of the race as well, doesn't it? The fact that he couldn't even hang on to the position ahead of Santa Callis on the opening lap has just snowballed into this, because he's constantly been having to make moves that he otherwise wouldn't have had to, and it's snowballed into him getting overtaken on occasion as well. And in the end, it's caused the accident, although that was of its own doing, of course. It's caused the accident, and now it means that he is very much behind in the race by some distance. Now, here on the back straight again, Jonas Simic has been looking pretty threatening recently, but still can't find his way through. What about now, though? Dennehan leaves the inside open here. Instead, Simičić goes to the outside. Oh, he's not committed enough to go round there, though. Maybe he'll go for a cutback and go here at turn 11. Dennehan on the energy again here. Maybe he'll do an overtake of his own, but no. Simičić still can't find his way through, and so stays behind in 5th position for another lap here.
And that's one thing, when the best overtaking opportunity is into such a fast chicane. It's high risk, but is the reward enough to benefit? And realistically, I mean, if Simičić got Dennehan here, I think he would not complain, obviously. But I don't think it's necessary at this point, so he doesn't need to go for a last lap lunge to try and do something. Seaboy is putting them, in a decent pace. They're in the sort of the mid-22s, which is good enough for what they need at this moment in time. And it doesn't need to be doing that just yet. But we are coming up very quickly towards 20 laps remaining, which is enough to put on the hard set of tyres and get to the end. So these cars are definitely two-stopping. It just depends who wants to get the undercut or who wants to have fresher tyres and stay out for a few more laps at the end.
That's the big question here. 23 laps to go when we get to the line. And what's Owen McGorgy going to do here, I think, is the conversation for the leading two, because they've, or he at least, has been on the hard tyres twice now. Yannick Bock has been on the mediums and the hard, so he's got free rein here. He can do what he wants, but McGorgy has to choose another compound here.
And I reckon that means Bock will get the undercut, because if he goes to the hards, he can have a couple of laps longer stint. But then McGorgy will be coming at him with the mediums. So it's going to be a tough one. But surely McGorgy needs to stay out to at least lap 40 to have about 18 laps on the mediums at the end, whereas Bock could probably pit, lap 37, 38 and get a couple of laps undercut. So it's the game of what is going to be better. But they've laid their bet as such in terms of what tyres they want to end. Or does Bock stay out? He tries to lengthen the stint and just copy McGorgy and not get undercut. It's an interesting battle that they got to choose.
Well, the problem with Bock getting the undercut, I think, is the traffic that he'd inevitably end up in. If you look at this right now, would he slot into that gap maybe between Hoyer and Biancalula?
I think he might.
Maybe. But if not, then he'll be behind Stair and Hoyer, which you don't want. And if he's too quick, then he'll be right behind Biancalula, and that's a train there from for him and Grankvist, and then not too far ahead is that battle we've been following for quite a while now. So it is fraught with danger going for an undercut, really.
Oh, definitely. So Bock needs to choose now. This is really the couple laps. He's like, okay, do I push now to try and keep this position and then pit in another 2 laps time, end of, let's say, 38, and go 20 on hards? Or does he try and just save a little bit, trying to get to lap 40 and then go on mediums? Something like that is surely what's going through his mind, because McGorgy has to go to the mediums. He's got to use 2 compounds of tyres during the race, and as you say, Bock has already complied with that regulation. So it's a tough one, but they're certainly pushing hard. I mean, 8 seconds ahead of race winners of Siebel, Dennehan and Simičić. That's no mean feat.
I think it's becoming clearer that these two are going to be the only two fighting over the race win today, as Alex Siebel comes into the pit lane after leading that train for 3rd place for so long. Now he's decided to set them free, and he gets up onto the jacks, puts on another set of the hard compound tyres. With 22 laps to go, it's a bit of a stretch, but you'd imagine he'll be going all the way.
Yeah, he should have that. What he'll do is he'll keep the track position at least, but will he have enough tyres in the last 2-3 laps? That will be the interesting factor. So now is the time for Dennehan and Simičić, I should say, to push as hard as they can to try and negate that undercut and use every bit of tyre life that they've got left in those hard compounds.
So how do these guys react? Jake Dennehan and Jurnej Simičić on the hard compound tyres for Race Clutch and rFactor eSports team into turns 9 and 10 here. It's a little bit wide from Simičić there, who's struggling to follow there in the dirty air. And we've got a yellow flag. Oh dear, I think Dennis Jordan's off the road. Is he? Well, maybe, but somebody's off the road anyway, down there in the first sector, or were. And they're getting back going all over again. I think it might have been Jordan, actually, who's not having a good day ever since taking his front wing off on the back of Sander Kallitz, it was, into turn 9. Let's have a little look at what happened down there. It was just on the exit of turn 4 when there's that real big curb on the outside. I wonder whether that's where he's come and stuck. It is indeed. Oh, he's nosed into the wall as well. Is that his second front wing loss of the day, or has he got away with that? No,
Yeah.
Oh, careful with that as well. He has indeed lost his front wing for the second time today.
Yeah, the front wing budget going out the window and not the race that he would have wanted, which is a bit of a shame, to be honest, because he was still pretty competitive in that first stint. But then after he tried to make that move on Callas, I think it was, it just sort of it started to go backwards over the next 20 laps since then. So hopefully he can try and recover a point for Ferrari, but with an extra pit stop. And of course he's going to be forced to go to the hards to the end at this point, then certainly not much more that he can do. So Yannick Bock has come into the pit lane as well with all of this. So where has he come out? He's come out in clean air. That is crucial. So not only is he getting the undercut, but he's got the clean air. He's gone to the hard compound tyres again. So it's now McGorgy. Is he going to follow in? But we know he's got the medium, so surely he's got to stay for a few laps.
Whoa, careful. Slides his way into the penultimate corner, but yeah, he will go out for another few laps here. 20 laps to go now. But here's McGorgy's problem. Look at the lap traffic in front of him. Cosmo Prosciutto is next up, also on the hard compound tyres. It's not exactly going to be getting away from McGorgy here. Mercedes on the softs, and they're quite new, I think, as well, so he won't be too much of a problem. And McGorgy won't be able to get there anyway with the amount of laps he's got left of the stint, but that could be really a disadvantage for him. Even with blue flags, could slow him down.
Yeah, definitely, as some pit stoppers are still coming in. This is Bianca Lilla and Denahan. So Simoncic just stayed out. Is that the mediums for Denahan?
Yeah.
Oh, that's certainly pushing the limit of what they can do, I'd say, to the end of the races. Siebel has got a big undercut there. So Simoncic is going to be further behind, but he will be on newer tyres to the end of the race. So, yeah, maybe he's going to be going to the mediums in the final stint. So it's interesting to see how the drivers are working out. Some are doing 2 hards and 1 medium. Some are doing 2 mediums, 1 hards, and the order is all over the place as well.
Yeah, it is. Here's Joni Simoncic on his own through 9 and 10. He ran one of the longest stints in the first part of this race, so expect him to do the same here in the seconds before going on to the medium tyres for a dash to the flag. And McGorgy seems to have done something similar. He's just making his way past the pit lane now, or is he on his way in? McGorgy, I think he's still out there on the circuit. He is indeed. He'll complete another lap, but Joni Simoncic is not. So 19 laps final stint for Simoncic here, leaving the race leader, the only one yet to stop now.
What tyres does Simoncic do? Because Denahan's gone on the mediums. Does he copy him, or does he stay on the hards? It looks like he stayed on hard compound tyres. So the advantage is he'll be able to push a lot more to the end. He's not going to worry about the tyre life, but Denahan will be faster for the first few laps of this stint. So let's see, there goes Callas. Where is Jake Denahan? Coming down in towards turn 1. He's going to be behind, but he's going to have the speed. He's going to have the momentum to the right-hand side. He's going to be risking it out onto the curb. But Simoncic squeezes. He gets back to the right-hand side of the track. And here comes Jake Denahan to try and make the move on the medium compound tyres compared to the hards. But I think Simoncic has just done enough to hold on to that position. And actually, he's really gained that, hasn't he, over the course of the pit stop sequence.
That was so crucial for Jake Denahan's race to get through, and he could not do it on these new medium tyres. You would have expected him to go through there and make use of the softer compound, but he hasn't been able to. Joni Simoncic ahead, and it's not by an insignificant amount of time either. So Sander Callas will be dealt with at some point throughout. I reckon he'll be pitting again, to be honest, before the completion of this race, especially since he's on mediums here. Siebel won't be, but he's undercut quite nicely, and so he's got a couple of seconds buffer. You would have expected Denahan to get ahead of Simoncic there, but he couldn't do it. Meanwhile, race leader Owen McGorgy comes into the pit lane. He's going to be not first, I think, is where he's going to come out here. Yannick Bock will be leading the race, but will McGorgy even be ahead of Siebel? He's allowed himself to get tremendously undercut by everybody else now. Out onto the mediums he goes. He's quite some distance ahead of Alex Siebel, actually. I shouldn't have even floated the idea. He's 3.5 seconds behind Yannick Bock, and this is the chase to the flag.
Yeah, so what he's done is he's sacrificed 3.5 seconds now for the possibility of having that speed enough to actually gain the position, as we're going to see Simoncic get through. And now Jake Denahan sliding his way down the inside as well. That was crucial. As you say, we do believe Callas needs another pit stop to the end of the 3-stop strategy, so it really hasn't worked out for him despite being up in this position. But he's now been overtaken and still needs a final stop. So it really just wasn't fast enough for him. But look who's on the back as well. Now Bianca Lilla, who's now, of course, taken off those tyres that he had the half spin on. And realistically, he's fighting for Simoncic for this position.
I think it's probably wishful thinking to say that, well, if he didn't spin, he would have been third, but he's up to 6th place now. That was easy enough on Sander Callas. Makes you wonder what he could have done, though, without that spin, doesn't it, really? Because he's right there now in the group that he left after spinning on the... Was it Jake Dennehan, maybe, he spun on the side of coming out the pit lane?
It was Grankfist, I think, around the outside, trying to make it work. But to be honest, I think you're right. I think it would have been, a lot easier of time to get this podium. Instead, he's going to have to work for it, and it will be a big job if he can do this. We've got some nice fights inside this top 6 to the end. That's what we whittled it down to. It was the top 11 at one point. It was then, slowly but surely, a few drivers dropping off. And Grankfist actually isn't too far behind, but he isn't doing the same catching up that Biancalilla has done.
Yeah, not really. Sander Callas lopping off the back of those guys. Here is Ian McGorgy. How quickly is he catching Yannick Bock here? What's the likelihood of a catch from Owen McGorgy here? Well, Yannick Bock is looking for his first World Championship win, so is Owen McGorgy. It looks like we're going to get a first-time winner here at the Australian Grand Prix, doesn't it? 10 seconds is the gap back to 3rd place. Surely the likes of Simičić are too far away to do anything from there.
Yeah, in terms of speed, it's definitely just a two-way battle at the front. There's no way these three are going to be catching up. Already 4, I guess, with Biancalilla now involved. There's no way they're going to be catching up on raw pace. So I agree. It's a 1v1, and who has got the racecraft? Who's got the metal to hold on to a very important race victory as well? As we were mentioning, it's sort of a bit of a flip-flop from the drivers who were up there in the championship before. Dennehan, Grankfist, P1, P2. So yeah, definitely an interesting one as Simičić closes in on Seibel. I think Seibel is going to struggle here with that earlier stop.
Well, he defended admirably in the first part of this battle during the second stint in the race. Now he's going to have to do it all over again now with Simičić just behind, then Jake Dennehan, then Manuel Biancalilla in this group for 3rd place. The final spot on the podium up for grabs. The rest of them too far away to get involved, really, despite the fact that both Brabham drivers, Michi Hoyer, Jan Grankvist, were here earlier on. The leading field has certainly been diminished over the course of this race. It has been an interesting one. The opening to this one especially exciting. Lots going on throughout that opening stage. Now it's a very different race situation with the 2 leaders miles out in front, a diminished second group, but a familiar fight for 3rd place. Simičić now sat there waiting in the wings to strike. Alex Seibel still ahead here and still doing okay. 15 laps to go now.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this, the point that you were mentioning. Of course, Seibel defended basically the whole of the last stint on these guys, but that's because they weren't in a rush to overtake, and also they would have been saving up their hybrid. Their batteries, I'm sure, would be pretty much full, at least around the time the pit stop. They'd probably use some on their outlap, etc. So I think Seibel might be slightly under pressure from that side of things, but it just depends when they decide to do so, and we've seen it's not the easiest to overtake. So I do think it's going to be a bit of a tricky one for Seibel to hold on to this. But I really love the fact that Biancalilla is there. And also, look who's now on the back. Grankfist as well. It's a 5-car battle for the top 3.
It is just about. Yeah, I wasn't expecting Grankvist to get there, actually, but just about managed it. Well, here he is. Maybe Sander Callas it can be considered part of the conversation too, but with a pit stop that we think he still has to make, as well as the 2 Brabham drivers, it's probably about the top 7 here. In terms of who's even getting the top 8, it's pretty unclear. Can Matthias Stair maybe even get into 8th place today? Very possible, but we'll wait and see on that front. Another trip down to turn 11 for these drivers, and once again Alex Seibel looking comfortable. I would have thought if you're in Simicic's position you wouldn't want to let Alex Seibel get too comfortable. You'd want to strike immediately, but clearly he's using a bit more patience than that.
I think it's because no one's really going for it at this point. I think if Dennehan was all over the back of Simičić, then it would be a different situation, but it's certainly nice to see that they're keeping it just slightly calm at this point, because we know that means it's going to be a pretty crazy final 5 laps or so in this race as they try and obviously have their battles. McGorgy's half the gap is now down to 1.5 seconds as well, so we've really got some big fights here at the end of the Australian Grand Prix.
They really have. But when are they going to kick off? 14 laps to go. Simicic not aiming to kick them off just yet, as they all get exceedingly close to the wall again through turn 5, taking the risks that this circuit requires. It's the new Albert Park Street circuit, of course, playing host to the Australian Grand Prix for the first time in 5 years in an FSR World Championship race, and it's produced an entertaining one so far, hopefully with a grandstand finish to come. Now into turn 9 and 10 again. Oh, here's Simicic, and just not close enough. Again, not close enough on Alex Siebel. What is Jake Dennehan and Manuel Biancalula going to do about this too? Because they're on medium tyres for now. We've seen them behave oddly in comparison to the hard tyres. Are they going to get better or worse towards the end of the race? How much worse, if they do get there, are they going to be? Oh, McGorgy's going to find that out himself soon as well as he catches Yannick Bock.
You're mentioning Simicic not close enough, but I wonder if he's almost too close into turn 9 that he just gets a whole bunch of dirty air and then can't keep it. Of course, it's a bit of a tricky one to sort of break early, but sometimes it actually might help you. So maybe that's something that he could consider, because it's just the fact that he's done that a few times. He's almost got too close. He was doing it on Jake Dennehan in the previous stint as well, and not able to carry that momentum through down towards T11. But of course, we will look at that battle at some point, I'm sure. But McGorgy is now just within a second, so he's got the slipstream, and yeah, has Bock got enough? Because there's enough laps for McGorgy to find his way around. It's not like there's only 3 laps to go. He's got 12 laps to do this.
Well, you say that, but how much of those 12 laps is he going to be in the ascendancy for is the real question, I find. If he's only going to be strong at this stage, then he's better off trying to get through pretty quickly. Now, Siebel is not very far ahead of Simicic at all. They're very close on the way towards 9 and 10, and here we go. Look at this from Jake Dennehan on the outside line with 3 wide into turn 11. Simicic knows he has to strike now, but can't. Siebel on the inside here is going to do his best, but Jake Dennehan on the outside's got the big advantage, and he will do for the penultimate corner, but no. Siebel's done a heroic job there to hang on to 3rd position. It's the start of a mammoth defence for his podium place.
Let's see if Jake Dennehan's going to have enough with DRS. Well, it actually seems like Siebel got the DRS, so Jake Dennehan must have just nudged ahead before we got to the detection zone, before the fast right-hander, and this is looking very good. But also for the race lead, we've got side-by-side, almost a bit of contact between the two as the racing heats up here.
Wow, 2 big battles for podium places, and a race win on the line too. Yannick Bock looking for his first, so is Owen McGorgy looking for debut wins. Neither of them have really even been in this situation before. Yannick Bock has never finished inside the top 2 of a race. Well, as things stand, it looks like he's going to succeed in that, whichever way this battle goes. Here comes Owen McGorgy on the outside line into turn 9, and he's through. Roars straight past on the outside line there, and how can Yannick Bock respond to this, because those medium tyres are looking fine so far.
We saw, though, in that first stint that the hards were able to hold on with the medium side. Let's see. I don't think it's going to be quite over, especially with the final few laps. We're going to be seeing McGorgy potentially struggle just a little bit as we go back to this 4-way battle in the background. Biancalula diving it down the inside, a bit of contact there as well. He's risking it because he's got Grankvist coming up behind, so I don't think these 5 are going to finish in the same order by the time we get to the checker flag.
No, that does seem difficult to believe. Maybe even for the front 2 as well. How long are those medium tyres going to stay better than the hards for out front? Owen McGorgy, by the way, has never finished inside the top 5 of a FSR World Championship race, and had never been in the top 10 before this season. He was 8th 2 weeks ago at the Bahrain Grand Prix, going a lot better than that here in Australia for the moment, but he's got a long way to go from here. 11 laps including the one that we're on. Feels like this race has all of a sudden kicked off all over again, and one of the fastest drivers within all of this is Manuel Biancalula. He's up a position, of course, or was briefly there as he was going side by side with Jurnej Simicic behind the battle we were watching between Siebel and Dennehan, and he's got every chance of finishing on the podium here, as have all 4 of these drivers, to be honest.
Siebel's done a great job to defend for a while, but how much push to pass is he going to have? Because Jake Dennehan's really romping in here up towards far chicane, where his teammates just got through to the race lead, but is not enough this time around. So Siebel is putting his car in the perfect place. He just needs to do it another 10 times to keep onto this P3. The issue is he's got 4 cars to defend from as well. It's not just 1v1. it's 4 cars that might all start to come past him if he makes one mistake. That's all it's going to come down to. Put the tyre on the wrong curve at the wrong time, and it will be absolute curtains for your race, as the lead has gone over 1 second at the front. McGorgy is pulling away.
He absolutely is, but still question marks over all of that at the front. Now, Siebel is going to be under pressure here from Jake Dennehan, who was very close through turn 1 there, although couldn't stay very close actually around the opening chicane. So into the final 10 laps we go. Feels like Dennehan's going to have to make use of those medium tyres before long, because there will surely become a stage where they are inevitably worse off than the hard tyres.
I wouldn't expect Jake's tyres to go completely to the end, because wasn't it like 19 laps that he had to do? So that's probably going to be the longest medium stint that we're going to see in the whole race. And of course they're on lighter fuel at the end, but that doesn't mean absolutely everything, because he's pushing so much as he's almost out of the slipstream there. He's trying not to get too close, as he really does close in there. So maybe Siebel trying to save up a bit of his hybrid power there. But it's actually Simicic who gets pretty close. But that turn 9-10 really does sort of spread out the battles a little bit. Then it's just who's got the momentum down to this back straight corner at T11. And it seems like they're just keeping it calm this lap.
They are. Through the final corners they go now, and it's still Siebel in 3rd position. They're losing so much time to the leaders, by the way. Any designs that anyone had of catching them have gone some time ago. More than a quarter of a minute to play with for the front 2 now, which is great news for them, and a great showing from 2 drivers who have never really been in that position before. And our return to the Australian Grand Prix for the first time in 5 years certainly has not disappointed. Our first time around the new look Albert Park Street circuit has been enthralling, and it is Owen McGorgy leading the way for the first time in the World Championship. Can he cross the line in first for the first time as well here later this evening? Very well might do. Through the first sector goes the battle for 3rd place. Siebel still hanging on here, and we've reached a bit of a stalemate again after that lap of action we saw a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, Dennehan on that previous lap was definitely purposefully not overtaking. Same again, just slightly going offline there, trying not to get the full slipstream, not go close up too much. But he's got to balance it out. He doesn't want to let Simicic have a go, but he might do so. He's getting a bit closer towards turn 11, not this time, just having a little bit of a look to the inside though. So it's a game of cat and mouse, because once more, we were mentioning earlier, you just lose so much time when you have these battles. So it's like if Simicic goes for Jake, okay, fair enough, he might make the move, but if Siebel gets away by 1 second, then maybe none of them get on the podium. So it is a really difficult stage, and I think that's why we've got to wait a couple of laps before we see the big lunges coming again.
Well, they've not got all the laps in the world to wait for here, but maybe your point about them being too close is a valid one from earlier on, because Dennehan certainly seems to have felt that through the opening 2 corners in particular. See there, he was nowhere really near to Siebel, but then again, turn 3 isn't really where we've been seeing the overtakes today. It's been down at turn 11, maybe a bit of side-by-side at turn 9 and 10, which has been spectacular at the back half of the circuit, but not very much at the front half at all, really. There go the 5 of them through onto the back straight now. This is where the difference is made. Maybe there's a bit of energy saving going on here too, as well, to be fair. You do need something to attack with.
Yeah, I think that is really what they're doing. They're just making sure they've got enough state of charge that they can have a battle later on. Although Simicic actually looking very racy, getting close there, and despite not being fully quite in the slipstream at that time. And the more that Simicic pushes Dennehan, the more that Dennehan is then going to have to start and make a bit of a desperate move. So that's why he's trying to get on, because he's that pressure cooker. He's trying to put all the pressure on behind and force Jake. But we know Jake is his 3rd season in the World Championship now. Of course, he's champion in multiple series by this point. He knows how to get it done. So he should be okay with that pressure. Of course, coming up against a 4-time champion, though, going for the record to tie the old Great Bonner House. But let's see how this one works as we get towards the final 6 laps.
Yeah, Simicic not, of course, with the best start to the season, although did finish 5th. He's ahead of Granqvist and Braxok, for example, who won, and Biancalula, who beat him 1 round ago. But Dennehan still ahead of him, of course, which is the one he'll really need to beat. They were 1 and 2 in last season's championship. Maybe we've got a bit of a rivalry forming between those two for another great championship season Through the end of the first sector they go again as the sun starts to set here at Albert Park. The shadows lengthen. The race comes to a close. The sun going down on the Australian Grand Prix here, both in the metaphorical and literal sense. Ewan McGorgy still leads. He's not extending the gap anymore, though. It's still below 2 seconds, and maybe Bot can start to draw that one back in again. And if he wants to win this race, he's going to have to start doing that soon with 6 laps to go.
Yeah, he certainly does. He did lose a couple of tenths, unfortunately, though, in that sector 3 that time around. Let's see what the lap times are as they come across the line. It was actually a cut lap from Yannick Bock as well, so he went off track somewhere. So he's got to be careful with that one. But yeah, I do think at this moment in time it's going to be tricky for him to get back to that lead battle. So McGorgy, with that move around the outside, might have just about done enough. But his teammate is going to need to copy that if he wants to get this 3rd place.
Yeah, Simicic is close here. That was a great run through turn 2 for Jone Simicic, but Dennehan knew it, and he used a bit of energy, but Simicic goes anyway. Oh, that's a big dive, and Siebel, he's been tucked around, and they're all off. The 3 of them off the road. Simicic tried to dive down the inside of Dennehan. Siebel, the one who goes around, and someone's lost a front wing. It's Jone Simicic. Oh, dear me, the 4-time champion with a rare miscalculation. And look at this, a sight you will very rarely see in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Jone Simicic making an error, and he's suffering for it. Through will go Jake Dennehan, surely back to the top 5 all over again, but Siebel will be seething, and he will not want to let anything go now. He's going to have to. Dennehan goes through. What a remarkable moment.
And that is not what I was expecting as well, in terms of the people making some mistakes on that. They were both braking as late as they could. Jake was getting close. We'll of course have to that one again to see exactly how this one's worked out. But what a shame that was for Alex Siebel, who was doing everything in his power to hold on to that 3rd place. But it was just Simicic coming in a bit late and tagging him there from behind.
Or was it Dennehan as well? Did they both tag him? I thought there was an early one there too. There's the dive. Maybe Dennehan got him too. I don't know how Dennehan survived without losing a front wing, by the way. Let's find out what happened here. Late on the brakes, Dennehan tags him.
Ooh.
I think as well.
Yeah,
I think they've both. Yeah, I think they've both done that, and that is what they call a collector's item. I think, because very rarely will you see those two make an error. Wow, I can't believe we've just seen that.
And that just shows you the pressure that was on them there to get that 3rd place with all of the drivers. So Dennehan in the end has come out on top with P5, but what this leaves is Bianca Lilla in 3rd place after being spun around by Jan Gregfist, who's right behind him at P4. So it's crazy how this race works out. And about 30 laps later, they are fighting for the podium themselves.
Doesn't that feel harsh to say spun around by Jan Gregfist?
True.
I feel like Gangris was just there and in the wrong place at the wrong time.
It's tough here. It is tough.
Yeah. So anyway, I personally don't think there's much wrong that either of them did actually, but there we go. We'll see what happens. There certainly was a lot wrong with that down at turn 3. Siebel's going to be really unhappy with how that all panned out. He's lost out positions as a result. Simicic has paid for it the most, of course, but he was one of those who broke too late and I think made contact with Siebel. Dennehan certainly did though, and they may have both been so focused on one another that they've actually both forced each other into making an error there.
Yeah, it's worked out pretty nicely. And can we just slowly talk about the pace of Yuka Pegulalu? He lost his wing on the front lap, and he's now ahead of Simicic, who's also had the extra pit stop for the front wing. So Lalu's pace has actually been pretty good there. Of course, Dennis Jordan has been in for 2 front wings, and unfortunately is going to be just picking up the last point because they do have a pretty decent gap to Peugeot from behind, who unfortunately has dropped off. But also another top performer this race is CMT Go Team Racing's Matthias Ster, who's up inside the top 10 now.
Yeah, I thought he was going to finish 8th today, but Sander Callis has overtaken him on soft compound tyres, and you can't really blame him for that one. But Matthias Ster doing a good job for Go Team. Can Yannick Bock get there? 3 laps to go. It's not 3 seconds. It would be over if it was. It's 1.5 in fact. Well, I think he's going to run out of laps really. The medium tyres have been better placed for Ewan McGorgy. Looking back in hindsight now, Yannick Bock didn't make the most of his medium tyres when he had them either. He needed to pull a gap, which didn't happen really.
No, McGorgy did such a good job in those first 10 laps. He, despite being on the hard tyres, he was able to have that gap, Bock managed to make it work on lap 11. So it took him most 3/4 of his, or 2/3, I should say, of his medium stint. He's done when he was in behind. So unfortunately, it just wasn't able to make that work. But Yannick should still be very happy with this, to be honest. He's had a podium before, but he's only won last season. And of course, he's moved to a different team. He's got different people in there to work with now. But still, I think he should be very happy. Look at the gap they pulled in behind as well. He really had the pace today.
Yeah, exactly. They both have. And to be honest, I don't really know where this has come from. I've not really seen the signs from either of them, although we haven't seen Ewan McGorgy very much in FSR. Not really seen the signs that these two had it in them. Bock has been a solid driver, 3 top 10s in a row now, going over the last 2 races of last season and the first of this. But I didn't think he had quite this speed in him. He's closed in by about 1/5 of a second on this lap. That's not quite enough with only 2 to go now. He needs to be pretty much there by this time next lap.
Yeah, he needs to have DRS next time around, which is 0.7. So he needs to get, just the extra half a second, maybe 7/10 of a second, and then he'll have DRS coming onto that final lap, which might be important. But of course, DRS is at the beginning of the lap. So the big overtakes will have to be without DRS, up in towards turn 9, maybe turn 11 on the final lap if he wants to make this stick. McGorgy's pace is still pretty good at 21.3, although he is the slowest out of the top 5.
Well, 1.2 seconds, the gap comes down. Bock now is going to absolutely drain the battery, and if either of them have anything left from here, they've got to absolutely use it from here to the end. 1.1, the gap continues to close, but as he said, it needs to be 0.7, and ideally it needed to be by about this point in the road because the detection point is not far away.
Yeah, just one more corner, just on the entry of the fast right-hander. At turn 12, and let's see if this is going to be enough. He does close in. He's going to be within a second. It's not enough for DRS though, but one final push to the end and maybe a mistake from McGorgy, and I think his mediums are starting to go.
They are. The gap was briefly below a second, but it's not quite enough. Yannick Bock will start the last lap with a mountain to climb. One more time around the Albert Park Street Circuit for the first time in 5 years, and it's going to be a first-time winner by the looks of things. Ewan McGorgy and Yannick Bock have one podium in FSR between them. They've got starts that you can count on your fingers and toes as well. They are inexperienced in the world of FSR, but they're showing right now that they could be here for many races to come. Maybe both of them will be race winners one day, but only one of them can be this afternoon. It's Ewan McGorgy who leads, and if you're even talking about being close enough without the DRS, Bock needed to be in the slipstream range, in range for an overtake by this point here. This is the back straight where he could have gained some time. He's not quite been fast enough to get there.
Yeah, needed to be in the slipstream, gaining those extra last few tenths, but look, the gap is almost equal to the 1,000th of a second, pretty much. There's a couple of hundredths. It changed over the course of that straight, so McGorgy, he's just got a few more corners to go, one more sector to take his first race victory, and he certainly had to work for it. He got, obviously, the pole position and then did the job in that first stint, but then he had to come and overtake his rival, and he's just got to hold on now.
11 race starts between them coming into today. Just one podium going the way of Yannick Bock. No top 5s going the way of Ewan McGorgy going into today. Just put it into perspective, what a remarkable performance this is. But it's Ewan McGorgy who's going to win the Australian Grand Prix and take first place for the first time in a Formula SimRacing World Championship race. After 58 laps, he is the man, and he wins at Albert Park. It's going to be Manuel Biancanina who recovers from a spin through the first stint to get a podium ahead of Jan Granqvist. And Jake Dennehan will round out the top 5 in a good recovery, but great drama, such drama at the end of a dramatic race.
As Michi Hoy gets to P7 as well, ahead of Sander Callas on the soft tyres at the end, chasing him down. There's some battles in behind because Mergeli has got Matthias Stair as well, as the Brabham drivers were coming fast in that final stint. Yoni Simic got up to 12th. In the end, he managed to overtake Valeriano on those soft compound tyres. And then it is going to be Dennis Jordan getting 2 points from this race, who managed to just about get ahead for Lalu. Oh, Lalu, can he even get to the line to get his points? Will he be able to do so? He hasn't got a wheel on the car, but he might just have enough left in it to hold off from Cosmo Prosciutto. God, he must have had a huge crash there on that final lap, but just about gets a point.
Dear, oh dear. And he does deserve it as well, because he's soldiered on after losing his front wing at the opening corner of the race, of course, and he will get a point for his efforts. Yannick Simicic, by the way, gets 4 points. He overtook Valeriano towards the end on the soft compound tyres, so he loses out on roughly 10 points as a result of that incident that we'll all remember down towards turn 3. It's Owen McGorgy, though, with his first ever World Championship race win ahead of Yannick Bock, who takes his best result ever, finishing second here today. Manuel Biancaluna is on to the podium. That's 2 top 5s this season from him. And Jan Grankmist, who is 4th. It's Jake Danahan, who is 5th in that one, to add another 12 points to his tally. Alex Siebel with add another 10 after his disappointment of being spun around at turn 3. Michi Hoyer finishes 7th in his best result since the San Marino Grand Prix 1 year ago. That was at the midpoint of 2023. Sander Callas finishes 8th out of the first of the Brabhams. Martin Mergley in 9th, who overtook Matthias Stair not so long from the end. Jonas Braxock misses out on a top 10 but did beat Yannick Simicic. Giordano Valeriano got overtook there on the last couple of laps. Dennis Jordan gets a couple of points for his efforts. 1 point for each front wing lost here today for him. Yukimeka Lalu also lost a front wing along the way. He comes out with a point. And Cosmo Peugeot misses out along with Stavros Mercedes and Ruben Mercedes, who's the first driver this season to complete a race while being 1 lap down. Not finishing in the end was George Zalagianis Kostas Van Vukas, who go along with Sergio Fletcher, who lost his rear wheel at the hand of his teammate, and Philip Pushka, who retired with a wheel failure early in the race. Well, what an exciting 58 laps that was. We're going to be joined by the podium drivers for a quick chat afterwards, starting with Owen McGorgy, who is with us now. Welcome, Owen. Good to have you with us. What are your emotions after 58 laps around here? It was one that was sort of in doubt fairly late on in that one. It was a close race between you and Yannick, but you came out on top. How are you feeling after that one?
I am absolutely speechless. I honestly don't know what to say. I was thinking that whole in lap what to say, and I still don't know. And it's just it's incredible to actually get a win here and show the pace I have.
Where do you think that race was won? Because we were saying earlier in commentary that maybe in hindsight, Bock didn't use his mediums enough to get away from you. Maybe it was that last stint where he made the overtake where the race was won. Maybe it was in the middle where you just stayed with Bock, or maybe in the first stint where you stayed with him despite being on the whole compound tyres. Which stint of the race did you think it was won?
When I came out on the mediums and I saw how surprisingly close I was to Yannick, I thought I was going to be at least 5 seconds back. But then, I gained all that time and got the move done, and it was just a matter of, keeping my tyres in check, and luckily I did that quite well.
Certainly. Congratulations on your first FSR World Championship win, Owen, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Owen McGorgy there, the first time race winner here today. And a new best result in his career for Yannick Bock, who can also join us now. What are your emotions after that one, Yannick? It might be a little bit mixed because, as I say, it's your best ever result, your first ever second place, but you must have wanted to win very badly. How are you feeling after that?
I'm feeling good. I think Owen deserved to win today. He was very fast in the last stint, and I had no battery left to fight against it, and I think he deserved it today. My race was very good. I had decent pace and decent tire wear. Unlucky that my battery was a bit off today, my battery management. But yeah, I'm happy with the pace, and even in qualifying it was very good. So I'm happy.
It's been around 9 months since your last and only podium so far before this one in the World Championship. Did you expect to be on the podium and up there in terms of pace here today, or is this a bit of a surprise to you?
Actually, the field is quite tight, and you cannot really plan how you want to manage the race and stuff. So I was very happy that I got my cue right, and then I had a very good start and could manage tires. Then I got into P1 and could manage my own race pace. Pace and tire wear was very good for me. So I felt confident, and had a very decent pace today.
Oh, congratulations on second place, Yannick. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us, and good luck in a couple of weeks' time at the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Yannick Buck there, second place today at Melbourne. And finally, we're joined by Manuel Biancalilla, who is with us too. Third place for you today, Manuel. First podium of the season for you after just missing out 2 weeks ago with a fourth place finish. When you were spun around, or did spin around, at the exit of the pit lane, the first time you made a tyre change in this race, were you expecting for even a top 5, never mind a podium today?
I don't know, to be honest. I was just frustrated a lot, as you can probably think, and I was just trying to push, and as soon as I saw that I was closing the gap, then I started pushing even more, and it kind of was worth it. Just sad because probably without the spin would have been, I don't know, probably a better result or something else, or at least closer to the first guys.
Yeah, maybe. There was certainly a big gap between second and third, that's for sure. It's been a long time since you've been a regular in the FSR World Championship. What have your expectations and sort of thoughts about coming back been? Because the series is very different to when you were last here. What were your hopes going into the season?
To be honest, I've been like in a pause, let's say like that, since last year probably, from the last F1 eSports, and I wanted to come back to race, and since I like rFactor and I like F1 cars, probably at the moment FSR is the best competition where to race in, and so yeah, I decided to race in here.
Well, it's great to have you here. Great to have you back on the podium as well. Manuel, congratulations on that third place, and thanks for chatting to us too.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Manuel Biancalilla there, third place today at the Australian Grand Prix. Well, Cam, what an exhilarating return to Australia that was. The first time we've been here in 5 years, and it didn't disappoint in the end.
Oh, it certainly didn't. It was kind of, in some ways, the race I was expecting, in some ways not. But oh my word, some of the overtakes that these drivers are going for was absolutely insane. And I can't wait to see exactly what is going to happen over the course of the next round, which of course is going to be a very an interesting one, because we have had that public vote. We have indeed. I'm not sure how you really want to do this, Cameron, but we're going to reveal here tonight at the end of this stream where we're going to be racing in a couple of weeks' time. All the other 9 circuits on the calendar, by the way, are already revealed. We've been talking a little bit, in fact, about Singapore, which I'm quite excited to go to in 4 weeks' time. After that, we've got Britain, San Marino, Turkey, Belgium, United States and Japan. But next up, it's going to be the Hockenheim. After a vote of 3 tracks, everybody's decided that the German Grand Prix will play host to round 3. Yes, it was between Hockenheim, Baku and Montreal, and the fans and the drivers have voted, and with 48.7% of the vote, it was Hockenheim, so pretty much 50%, half of the votes. That's where we go to, so that's going to be an interesting one. There's also some big curbs there like we saw today, so returning after many, many years really is a bit of a difference this season. Just out of interest before we go, how close were Montreal and Baku to Hockenheim in the end? 21% for Baku, 29% for Montreal, and then 48% for Hockenheim. Okay, there we go. So in the end, a pretty comfortable Hockenheim. I guess people don't want the close proximity of walls, especially after Australia, and with Singapore to come, it would have been a very difficult part of the season. So back to a more normal Grand Prix circuit, although by no means one of the longer ones these days. It is Hockenheim up in 2 weeks' time, then back to the streets again of Singapore. Thanks so much for everyone who's been joining us once again. It's been a great start to the Formula SimRacing World Championship for 2024. Another exhilarating race and another different race winner, although it stays at Race Clutch. Owen McGorgy, the winner of the Australian Grand Prix for 2024. Very much hope you enjoyed it. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Cam Rodger for this round of the championship, and until we see you in 2 weeks' time for the German Grand Prix, it's goodbye for now.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols, and welcome to FSR
Who's going to break Haystack's world title?
For my Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And these two go! Ewan is going to do it! His first victory! The World Championship is done. What a race it's been!